Hey, everybody, welcome back to A Matter of Life and Maiden, the podcast of the Beast. I am Joe Labriola, and this is episode 48 of the podcast. And, man, it's crazy to think we're 48 episodes deep into this thing already. I recorded an episode earlier back in, I think, March of 2026. That was the last episode I recorded. It's now July 22nd, 2026. Just been busy the last couple months with some things. Moved into my girlfriend's place, and we've been doing some house projects. Been super busy. My parents bought a new house. I've been helping them move in and out of that. They have about 30 years worth of stuff in their house, so it's been a lot of helping them because they're getting a little bit older. My dad just had an eye surgery, so he wasn't able to really do much, and my mom's need some help with some things, so I was over there helping them with some things. Still got a lot more to do, but that's kind of what I've been up to the last couple months, hanging out with some of my other buddies, playing D&D. Just had a long talk with my old buddy Jeremy Kramer, who I met in like 2002. We've been friends or 2001. We've been friends for 25 plus years now, and we were talking about some D&D stuff and some Iron Maiden stuff and some wrestling stuff and all kinds of stuff. One of our other buddies, Brian Selfridge, he's a wrestler in the group. He's like an amateur wrestler, and he goes around and does stuff. He's really cool. His moniker is Lestat, like the vampire, so that's neat. Our other buddy Jeff was hanging out with us on Saturday. He's a Penn State economics instructor full time, and our buddy Ryan, he's a prison psychologist at a state prison in Pennsylvania. So we all come from a lot of different backgrounds. So I've been hanging out with those guys a lot, kind of talking about Iron Maiden a little bit here or there, and some of those other things I mentioned, like wrestling and Dungeons and Dragons and music and life in general. Obviously, this is a matter of life and Maiden. But to get back on topic here, and a little off the rails there at the beginning, but just thought I'd kind of preface why I've been away for so long. The first big thing that happened in the last couple months was the Burning Ambition documentary got released on digital, and I remember I was sitting on my first break at work, my morning break, and I happened to be sifting through some stuff on Facebook and Instagram and looking at stuff about Maiden, and I saw that like Burning Ambition got released in early June, like at the beginning of June, the first week of June or second week of June, whenever it was. And I immediately came home for lunch and purchased it on Amazon and watched about 20 minutes of it before I had to get back to work. I got an hour lunch break, so I watched the commute from work to here is about 15 minutes. I sat down, watched about 20 minutes, and then went straight back to work thinking about it because I was like, man, this is awesome. But when I finally finished it, I enjoyed it, and I thought it was a cool documentary. However, and I know I'm nitpicking here because I'm a Maiden critic. Like, I'm a super fan. So, a lot of it was stuff that I had already seen in prior documentaries or stuff I had already known about in regards to the band. I think some of the stuff with some of the fans, like Captain Harris was on there, and her significant other. Some of the actors on there, like Javier Bardem, and other musicians were on there, like Tom Morello. He's on there. He talks about the guys all the time. Lars Ulrich made a slight appearance again. It was cool to see Javier. I mean, he was like super animated. That was honestly one of the best parts of the documentary. And just even some of the interviews from the guys themselves talking. I think for new Maiden fans, if you want to like just kind of, I don't want to say, if you want somebody to watch a documentary and get like a really quick glimpse or like snapshot of 50 years of Iron Maiden, then yes, Burning Ambition's awesome. But for Maiden purists and fans who have been with the band for, a decade or 20 years or 30 years or 40 years or the entirety of their run now for 50 years plus, then for guys like us, or gals like us, we're kind of like looking for something deeper, like a deeper dive. And that's what I was kind of hoping for. I feel like a lot of it was kind of a really brief summation of the 50-year period, and I don't think a lot of time was devoted to things that I personally thought, and I know a lot of my fellow Maiden fans and stuff on Instagram that I've been talking back and forth with, and on Facebook, and just on a couple streams or just some chat rooms and stuff have been like, yeah, we were a little let down. I mean, anything that comes out from those guys, I'm grateful for. Like, hear me out. Like, I'm grateful for it. But I just feel like I wanted more out of it. And I said this before, I feel like an hour and 35, an hour and 40 minutes is just not enough time to devote to a band who has given us 5 decades worth of kick-assness and awesomeness and epicness and life-changing music. Like, I just feel like the runtime should have been at least another half an hour, like, minimum. The thing should have been like 3 hours long. And that's kind of where I stand with it. I'll give you like my whole review that I wrote on Instagram. And this was back on like June 10th, I think I posted this on the IG. So I just said, just purchase and finish watching Iron Maiden's Burning Ambition documentary. I very much enjoyed it. It was great to see things from more of a fan perspective and to see how Maiden's music touches people from all corners of the earth, people from all walks of life. Certain periods and records were highlighted over others. Examples given, the early albums with Paul, the Satanic Panic of the 1980s, Bruce's entrance into the band, the Number of the Beast record, platinum record success, the Power Slave record, being on top of the world with the World Slavery Tour, Behind the Iron Curtain, Burnout from that tour, Bruce's departure, Blaze Bayley's entrance, metal struggling in the 1990s with the advent of grunge, Bruce and Adrian's return, the Brave New World record, Bruce's cancer struggle, the Book of Souls record, Nicko's stroke and his retirement from touring, and all the way up to the band at the present moment. And while all of those things were focused on or explored fairly well, it would have been nice to see some more love and representation given to Peace of Mind, Somewhere in Time, Seventh Son, Dance of Death, A Matter of Life and Death, The Final Frontier, and Senjutsu. There were only brief song clips or a sentence or two referencing some of these albums. Nicko and Yannick's entrances into the band could have got a bit more screen time in my opinion as well, as they were very, very, very briefly covered. Admittedly, I teared up a bit when Blood Brothers came on and they were talking about the Iron Maiden family. That got me good, and it does every time. The part about having 3 guitarists in the band after Adrian came back into the band hit me in the feels too, because he's my favorite guitarist, and it's awesome just to see that camaraderie when he came back. For me, I didn't really learn anything new about the band, but with Maiden being woven into the fabric of my life, my way of thought, my identity, this was another reminder of why they're the greatest ever. I still think Flight 666 is a superior documentary for Eddie and the Boys, but this one was great in a different way. And I'm aware that trying to encapsulate every single detail for a band that showcased over 50 years of excellence and under a 2-hour runtime is basically impossible. So that's kind of what I just wanted to say with that. So, and to keep going and continuing off of that, like what I said earlier, I mean, like, I feel like there should have been more time devoted to it. The stuff that they hit and the stuff that they covered was really good. But to say it was really a full 50-year kind of like snapshot is, I don't know, that's being a little modest about it, because like I said, they focused on a lot of ups and downs with the band, but the stuff that should have had a little bit more time, I mean, they talk about Somewhere in Time for like 5 minutes. They talk about Peace of Mind for like 5 minutes. It's like, these are like revolutionary albums. And the Number of the Beast and the Satanic Panic, they talk about that for like 15 or 20 minutes. It's like, well, if you're going to devote that much time to that, cut that down a little bit and sprinkle a little bit more time in some of this other stuff. But like I said, it's really, really hard. I mean, they would almost have to do, for like a complete catalog, do like a history of every single album. And like, let's not forget, we do have the history of Iron Maiden Part 1. We do have the history of Iron Maiden Part 2 and Part 3 that's out there, right? We have like the early days, the Live After Death one, and the one that came out on the Made in England DVD release and video release in like 2012 or 2013 when that came out. So we do have other supplemental works that are really, really good. And honestly, I hate to say it, but I feel like they're the superior works. Like the behind the scenes from Flight 666 and all those other ones I mentioned, and the behind the scenes of like Rock in Rio, and the behind the scenes on Death on the Road. Those documentaries that came with that stuff are like in vivo. I feel like they're just far superior than what we got with Burning Ambition. But again, that's focusing on specific records and a devoted documentary to basically like an album or a tour versus 50 years that you're trying to squeeze into an hour and 40 minutes. So I get it. But it's like, yeah, you could have did a little bit more. You could have given us a little bit more. You could have done it. But to piggyback off of that, on July 14th, so just about a little over a week ago, 8 days ago, July 14th, Iron Maiden sold a 50% stake in their publishing, master music recordings, name, image, and likeness rights, including their mascot Eddie, to Pop House Entertainment. And the financial terms, like, how much, what that deal looks like, the logistics behind the money, what they're getting out of it, what Pop House is getting, how much they sold it for, all that stuff wasn't disclosed. But Maiden kept BMG Music as the existing ownership in the United States catalog. And for future plans, what this does is it enables Iron Maiden to basically contain control and remain in control of touring schedules, live set lists, and future studio albums. So they sold it for like this legacy. They're gearing up to kind of wind down here. Like I said, the guys are getting old, so they're getting things set in motion here for the future. But what it does is it allows them, by selling it to Pop House, to expand creatively. So, if you read stuff online or even type it in like Google real quick or Safari, what you're looking at, they're trying to quote-unquote turbocharge new projects, cinematic releases, and digital experiences. So they're trying to get some funding and backing to release more content. Because, back in the day with those music DVDs and stuff and everything that they threw out, I sit here and I think about it like they've churned out a lot of stuff for us over the years. And if they're trying to turbocharge some things here, that's awesome. They're also filming the Run for Your Lives Tour 2026. When they played that show in France, there was like a power outage or like a blackout, and they didn't get to finish the set. So I guess they took a couple songs from that, and then they re-recorded the rest of the set list in another place or some other areas to get like a full live concert experience feel. So that there's kind of a reason why this sale to Pop House is important. They're trying to like turbocharge, like I said, and expedite these like concert film releases. So we're probably going to get a new, I would think, live album based on the Run for Your Lives tour, and a companion DVD or Blu-ray with that coming out pretty soon, I would think. It'd probably come out next year. It'll probably be 2027 we get that. So that's really exciting. That's really cool. And then 2028, as some of us have speculated here, and I think it's going to be a year where they do an album. I think we're going to get a new album in 2028, and I think or potentially 2027. And I think it's going to be awesome. And I think they're going to tour with it, and they'll do like a tour based on the reunion albums and include songs from a new album. And they'll do like a 16 or 17 song set, which is pretty much the trajectory. And they probably won't heavily play like a lot of stuff. You figure if they play one or two songs from some of the albums, like let's get 3 from Brave New World, let's get 2 from Dance of Death, 2 from A Matter of Life and Death, maybe 1 from Book of Souls, 1 from Senjutsu, 1 from Final Frontier, sprinkle some stuff in there. I think it'll be cool. I think it'll be a really neat set, unique and different. And we really haven't had like a reunion or like greatest hits reunion set since I saw them back in 2010 on the North American leg of the Final Frontier tour, when they played like 4 songs from Brave New World, 3 from Dance of Death, 2 from Matter of Life and Death, and then they just had the single for El Dorado out. And it was a really cool set. Like, it was really neat. And then they sprinkled in some songs from the 80s catalog, kind of like the ones that weren't like super popular, you know, like the ones you may think they would have done. So a lot of people didn't like it because they didn't really play anything old, but they were really focusing on that new stuff, and I really enjoyed it because, you know, the tour before that I saw was Somewhere Back in Time, so it was like I got to see the old stuff that was awesome, the new stuff that was awesome up to that point, so it was the best of both worlds for me. And to kind of elaborate on that too, like, that's kind of what was missing from the Burning Ambition documentary. Like, they didn't really highlight the new stuff a lot, or a lot of the old stuff. It was kind of just like, if you were going to make the Burning Ambition documentary a set list, it would be like half of it would be Number of the Beast songs, half of it would, or, you know, excuse me, a third of it would be Number of the Beast songs, a third of it would be Power Slave, and a third of it would be Brave New World. Like, they kind of left a lot of stuff out. It's like, well, you guys should have touched on some things a little bit more, but anyway, so talked about Burning Ambition, my thoughts on that. Talked about the Pop House sell, the 50% stake to Pop House for Iron Maiden. And lastly, the one thing I want to talk about that I thought was pretty sick and pretty cool was, I was looking at some stuff on Loudwire, and to bring up Cap'n Harris again, she did like an interview at Nicko's restaurant, Rock and Roll Ribs in Florida, and she was interviewing him and asking him a bunch of questions, and they made Nicko do a ranking of his favorite Iron Maiden albums from his least favorite to his, you know, his favorite. And I just want to read it here because I'm excited. So his list, and I'll start from 17 all the way down to 1. He ranked Iron Maiden at number 17, the debut. Virtual 11 at 16. No Prayer for the Dying at 15. The X Factor at 14, Killers at 13, Number of the Beast at 12, The Final Frontier at 11, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son at 10, Fear of the Dark at 9, Somewhere in Time at 8, Brave New World at 7, Dance of Death at 6, The Book of Souls at 5, Power Slave at 4, Senjutsu at 3, Peace of Mind at 2, and number 1 was A Matter of Life and Death, and that's why it was so awesome, because I was like, man, that's one of my favorite albums. It's one of Matt's favorite albums. When we were making this podcast together, that's what we named the podcast after, A Matter of Life and Maiden, after the A Matter of Life and Death album. And it was super cool to see Nicko place it that high, because when you talk to people, a lot of people I talk to, like, a lot of people really don't give A Matter of Life and Death a lot of credit, you know? Most people think it's a good album. I've seen it either, like, from when I talk to people, it's like, it's usually never in the top 5. It's like kind of like middle of the pack, or like towards the bottom for a lot of people that I've talked to. And then there's like a select group of people that I kind of relate with and agree with. We'll have back and forth discussions about A Matter of Life and Death and how it deserves to be like at the very top, or like in the top 5 or top 3. And you know, when I ranked Iron Maiden albums, when I did my ranking, and Matt's ranking was very similar to mine when we did these records. The only one he didn't participate on with me was Senjutsu, because we weren't really doing the podcast collectively together, and I kind of did that one myself. But I mean, I think Iron Maiden has done 3 10 out of 10 albums, and for me, that's Power Slave from the 80s, Senjutsu, and A Matter of Life and Death. For whatever reason, for me, those 3 albums are just so powerful, and the fact that Nicko ranks Senjutsu at 3 and A Matter of Life and Death at 1, like, that's 2 of my 3 albums that are, like, in my top 3. So it's cool to see the similarities. Now, some of the stuff I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think Iron Maiden should be at 17, but Nicko said, like, the production on it was really bad. He didn't really care for it. And then when he talks about like A Matter of Life and Death, he's like, man, just that album was so good. He's like songs like Brighter Than a Thousand Suns, Reincarnation of Benjamin Brigg, For the Greater Good of God, Lord of Light, Legacy. Like he's talking about all the stuff I talk about and why I love the album. So it was awesome to see that. Awesome to see that list. And a lot of it kind of correlates to how I feel about a lot of the Maiden albums too, and the way I rank them. I mean, some are out of place here or there, but like middle of the pack stuff like Brave New World, where it's at. I personally like Somewhere in Time a little bit more, obviously, because Adrian's my favorite guitarist in the band. You guys know this. If you listen to the podcast, it's one of my favorite albums. But yeah, I mean, it was really neat to see that list, and it really like lit me up that he was like, A Matter of Life and Death is my favorite album. And to reiterate, like how much joy that album has brought to me in my lifetime. I mean, I can't even describe it. Like it's such a good album. And I was listening to it the other day because I saw Nicko put that. Yeah, I saw the guys put the list up on Loudwire when they were talking about the interview with Cap and Harris at Rock and Roll Ribs, and I was like, man, this is awesome. It's so awesome. He ranked A Matter of Life and Death at number 1. I love that about it. I mean, the list it's not my list. You know, my list is different. It's not the same. But I mean, let me pull up my list here actually. Let me find it. Okay, so like I said, my list is a little different. I finally found it. My 17 is No Prayer for the Dying. I give that album a 3 out of 10. 16 for me is Fear of the Dark, a 5 out of 10. 15 for me is Virtual 11, a 6 out of 10. 14 for me, The X Factor, 7 out of 10. 13 for me is Killers, an 8 out of 10. 12 for me is The Final Frontier, an 8.5 out of 10. 11 for me, Dance of Death, 8.5 out of 10. 10 for me is Iron Maiden, 8.5 out of 10. 9 for me is Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. I give that a 9.3 out of 10. 8 for me, Brave New World, 9.4 out of 10. 7 for me, Book of Souls, 9.5 out of 10. 6 for me, Number of the Beast, 9.5 out of 10. 5 for me, Peace of Mind, 9.6 out of 10. 4 for me is Somewhere in Time at 9.7 out of 10. Number 3 for me, Senjutsu, 10 out of 10. 2, A Matter of Life and Death, 10 out of 10. And number 1 for me is Power Slave, 10 out of 10. So that's my list. And like I said, it's different from Nicko's. And that's what's so cool about Iron Maiden, just to like kind of expand upon that too. Like Zach Wild did this thing when he was talking about Zeppelin records in like an interview one time, and he's like, everybody asked me like, what's your favorite Zeppelin record? Or if anybody asks you what your favorite Zeppelin record is, he's like, they're all my favorite. Like they're great. He's like, it's like ordering pizza. When you order pizza, all pizza is awesome and all pizza is good. He's like, it's about like the toppings you get. He's like, some people prefer pepperoni. Some people like mushrooms. Some people like black olives. Some people like a supreme. Some people like meat lovers. Some like it with mild pepper rings on it or banana peppers on it. Some people like it with pesto and broccoli and all that stuff. And he's basically saying like, you can rank all the albums the same if you want. Like, all Zeppelin albums to him are perfect. They're 10 out of 10. But then you're going to have favorites. You know, like sometimes you're going to say, like, I like pepperoni pizza the most. But I do love this on occasion too. And it's hard to go back and forth. And I talk about it in the podcast all the time. Like, those are the rankings that I give based on actual numerical ranking and the fact that I have to put them from, you know, the weakest as far as a numerical value goes out of 10 to, you know, the highest rank. But even if you look at that ranking, Power Slave, A Matter of Life and Death, and Senjutsu for me are all 10s. But how do you rank them after that? And then you have to go more personal, like into your mind and into your heart and your experiences with the album to put them that way. So, like, I'll give you an example. So, my top 10s, Senjutsu, A Matter of Life and Death, and Power Slave, They're all perfect to me, but they're perfect in different ways. And I've talked about this in a couple episodes on the podcast before, but I'll kind of like paraphrase it here. Power Slave is always going to be a 10 for me. The artwork for me was absolutely amazing. I'm an antiquarian. I studied ancient Greece, Egypt, and Rome pretty much exclusively in college. Classics and ancient Mediterranean studies focus major, and history. That's my stuff. I love antiquity. I love medieval Europe, in particular, Brittany, France, before it became France, like Normandy, and before it became the United Kingdom, parts of Ireland, parts of Scotland in the Middle Ages. I love that. Spain on occasion, not so much Spain, but all that stuff. I love Roman Britain. I love Renaissance Italy, and I love that too. And that kind of gives me. I know Dance of Death's not in this conversation with the top three, but that's why I love Dance of Death slightly. It has this kind of Renaissance-y, minstrelly, kind of Italian Renaissance-y feel to it. I like it. But Power Slave for me is always going to be a 10 because of that connection with the antiquity that I have with it, and the fact that Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner is my favorite Iron Maiden song, and the fact that I got to see Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner live on the Somewhere Back in Time tour, and it's on the DVD from the show that I attended, will always be immortalized in the Maiden catalog of live music forever. I was there. You can put in Flight 666, the DVD or the Blu-ray right now, or the live recording. I have a vinyl copy of it. I have a CD version of it. I have all that stuff. You can put it in right now and listen to it, and I was part of that crowd screaming in the background. That's awesome to me. I love that. It's never, like, you can never take that away. It's immortalized. That's why that's number one, 10 out of 10. A Matter of Life and Death for me is a 10 out of 10 at number 2 because of a different reason. It's because it was the first album that came out after I had become a Maiden fan. And when Matt and I sat there and listened to it in its entirety, we were absolutely blown away. I mean, like, the shock and awe on our faces looking at each other. It's like entering another dimension. It was like we found some kind of ancient metal that isn't on the periodic table of elements. Like, we discovered something otherworldly, man. And when Nicko says, now that makes it even cooler for me now that Nicko says it's number 1 for him, because he's so right. Like, I agree with his sentiment about the album. I mean, the epics on that record are so epic, and I did a episode on the podcast called My Favorite Iron Maiden Songs, or like target songs. Like, songs that like hit the target and hit the bullseye pretty much every time. And I said A Matter of Life and Death was pretty much the best album. Like, in terms of a song grouping that hits it home with the majority of the tracks on the record, because the majority of the tracks on the record are epic. Or like, they sound very epic. And to go back to what Matt said when we were talking about the original Iron Maiden album, he said how Phantom of the Opera is only like a 7.5 minute song, right? Give or take. But there's so much packed into that song that it feels like it's a 15-minute song, because there's so much amazing, emotional, and musical and lyrical changes going on in that song. It just feels like this gargantuan, epic masterpiece. You think it's 15 minutes, but it's really only 7.5 minutes long. And to take kind of what he said, because I agree with him wholeheartedly, 100%. I mean, he took the words right out of my mouth, the thoughts right out of my mind when he was talking about that. That's A Matter of Life and Death with some of these like shorter end epics too. Songs that aren't really technically over the 9 or 10 minute mark, but they're right around, they're hovering. They're like 7.5, 8.5, 9, like right around there. That's the feel. It's that Phantom of the Opera formula, that feel where they're packing so much into the 7 or 8 minutes or 9 minutes of a song that it feels like it's 15 minutes long. And that's exactly what A Matter of Life and Death did for us as Maiden fans. And at that point in time, we'd been Maiden fans for 1.5 to 2 years. So we were going back and digesting all the old stuff. And then when that came out, we were like, what the hell is this masterpiece? And to this day, it's a masterpiece. It's awesome. And then I remember I started college like a year or so after that. And I remember just walking around and people had all these like a Matter Life and Death shirts on, and I was wearing one. And that's how I met some of my friends in college, because we just connected wearing Amalud shirts and just talking about the band and going back and talking about their catalog. And it was, that experience for me is awesome too. And just how close Matt and I were at the time, like teaching each other how to play guitar, and like little things, that I would do that he would appreciate, or vice versa. And like we were kind of like crafting our play styles. And Matt was really getting into the dive bombing and the Floyd Rose stuff with the floating bridge. He had an ESP Kirk Hammett signature. I know it's Metallica, but floating bridges, the tremolo bar system, that's Maiden. Locking bridges, locking point trem, Dave Murray, all the guys, Adrian. And then like I was playing an old SG copy, and I eventually upgraded to my Jackson shortly after that with a floating bridge and a trem. I still have it. Love that guitar. Persephone's her name. Again, the reference back to antiquity, Greek mythology. And then obviously Senjutsu at number 3, then a 10 out of 10. And the reason being for that was because it reminded me of the lengthy epics of A Matter of Life and Death, and a different motif, and the samurai on the cover, and the fact that, and going back to Amalud real quick, I love history. I'm a historian, so World War II, the cover is it's World War II. It's a World War II themed cover. Senjutsu with the samurai. I was a martial artist for 15 or 16 years of my life, secondary black belt. I taught it for 4 or 5 years. I was always fascinated by Japanese manga and culture and Eastern philosophy and Shintoism and Taoism and Buddhism and anime. I love anime, and I love Japan. And it's just, that whole motif is super interesting to me. And like I love ninjas and samurai. Like I said, I love that. And being a martial artist and practicing with swords and practicing with nunchaka and staves and sai and knives and all those different things. And Batman's my favorite superhero. And if you watch Batman Begins, the movie by Christopher Nolan, like, he learns in Japan. Basically a samurai, a ninja. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, man, I know it's kind of funny, but it's like, that's super cool. It's like ninjutsu, ninja. And then look at like the songs on the record and like the strength of them. Senjutsu was just an amazing opener, just completely different for them. The epics by Steve on there are some of the coolest songs I've ever heard, like the Parchment, Death of the Celts, Hell on Earth, Lost in the Lost World. Just absolutely amazing. And I mean, that's pretty much it. Like that, this is the episode. I'm getting to the end of the rope here. I just wanted to kind of jump on and talk about those just few little things over the last couple months that's been going on in the Maiden world. And I'm so happy. Like I feel so fortunate to be a Maiden fan, because I know they got some more surprises for us up their sleeves, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see what they do and what's in store for us, because, man, they're still going out there and crushing it. Now, I know people have been following them for 50 years. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know everything about Iron Maiden. But I'm also not going to sit here and shy away from the fact that they have been one of the biggest inspirations and things that I've followed in my life for the last 21 years. I mean, that's going on 22 years. Like, that's not gonna lie. They've been with me for more than half of my life. 60% of my life I've been a Maiden fan so far. I'm gonna be 40 in September, and they've been with me since I've been 18 years old. So I mean, it's really a long time, and I know a lot about the band. They're one of the things in my life that I am most passionate about to this day, right now, as we speak, on July 22nd, 2026. And that's never going to change. And I have seen kind of like the I don't want to say it in a negative way, some of the stuff and the releases and stuff diminish periodically over the years, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I think just the some of the stuff that we've got, and I've talked about this, I wish they would have just put a little bit more oomph into it. Like, and going back to A Matter of Life and Death again, and even Senjutsu. Like, I'm still waiting for that live record, boys. I still want to see that live record or live video footage or DVD or concert of A Matter of Life and Death. I still want to see that live concert video footage of Legacy of the Beast, because that tour was awesome. We got a live record, but not concert footage. I still want to see that live, full concert in its entirety of the Future Past tour, or a live release. They would make so much money off of that. And I'm not even, it's not about the money, but I mean, I would buy every single one of those things on multiple platforms, whether that be DVD, Blu-ray, CD, vinyl. I'm like a Maiden, a huge Maiden nerd. Like I said, they're one of my favorite things in life. Give me all of that every day, all day long. If they were to release like Future Past Tour right now, live, CD, DVD, whatever, I'm buying it. I have everything. I have Infinite Dreams. I have 3 different versions of the Senjutsu album because I'm nuts. Because I needed to have the blood red and the black regular vinyl and the silver vinyl, the special editions, like picture disc stuff. I have singles. I mean, it's just, I have every video DVD they've ever released. And I just, man, and that's another thing I want to bring up. With all this stuff now going like digital mediums, and I'm a gamer too, and I don't know if you guys heard about this, but like Sony's getting hit pretty hard because in 2028 they're no longer going to manufacture physical media. Like, they're not doing game discs anymore. Everything is going to be from the PlayStation Store. You have to buy it. And it's like, people were throwing a little hissy fit about that, and they're pissed, which rightfully so, because, I mean, technically, when you buy, I'm going to use that term loosely, buy or purchase loosely, a code or something from the store that you can just download, you're buying a license, basically, or renting a license that says you can use it for as long as it remains active in that digital medium, or that storefront, or that suppository. And at any time, they can get rid of it. So, that kind of brings me to the point of Maiden, too, is the fact that, like, these tangible items that we can actually get our hands on, like a real copy of Burning Ambition, like a real copy of it, or the real Infinite Dreams book. Dude, that stuff is so monumental, and I can't understate that, just how much having a physical copy of something means these days, especially with all that stuff going on. But anyway, I've rambled long enough here for the last 10 minutes of the podcast. But I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you for tuning in. I just wanted to jump on here real quick and talk about those things. I appreciate everybody following the Instagram page and joining up on the YouTube. Hit that button and join us. You know, invite your friends to come talk. And to be honest, I mean, like, drop some comments in. Like, let me know how you feel. I welcome everybody from all walks of life. And as I said, like, Maiden is my favorite thing in the world. You know, it's like, it's one of my biggest passions, if not my biggest. And I love introducing new people to my life experience with Maiden and trying to get people into Maiden. And it's so easy. If you're a fan of, like, guitar music or rock and roll or metal, or even the subject matter, they talk about science fiction, history, philosophy, antiquity, historical figures, life in general. Like, there's so many avenues you can get into Maiden with. So it's not hard. But anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Up the irons, long live Eddie and the boys. And the tagline for A Matter of Life and Maiden, don't forget this now: Maiden is life and the rest is history. So, appreciate you guys tuning in. Take care of yourselves. Long live Eddie and the boys. We'll see you guys next time on episode 49.